We're in the manuscript and drawing study room at the Getty Center.
What we're looking at is an Ethiopian gospel book from the early 16th century, and a gospel book is a compilation of the 4 books of the gospel written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
We're going to start with a special page, an image of the Virgin and Child enthroned.
It's a full-page illumination, so it has a sense of importance.
It's interesting to consider this book because when we think about Christian manuscript traditions, we too often just think about Europe and not about this amazing tradition in Ethiopia.
And Ethiopia has a very long tradition of Christianity.
The context for this manuscript is the Solomonic dynasty, and this time we have an emperor, Tsar Yaakov, who is especially interested in the Virgin Mary, both personally, but also interested in promoting her during the liturgy. And there was a book about the miracles of the Virgin Mary that was important during this time.
And that was in the mid-15th century. And this manuscript is from the very early 16th century. So it demonstrates how that tradition impacted Ethiopian manuscripts over a period of time. What's interesting about this page is that there's a fabric piece over the Virgin and Child. So at first you don't see the Virgin and Child.
We can imagine a priest, perhaps during the liturgy, moving through this book and then revealing the Virgin Mary.
This particular manuscript, we don't know exactly where it came from, but there are about 7 manuscripts in this style that we know are from the Gundagunde Monastery.
So what I'm noticing are very rounded forms, from the Virgin Mary's face to even her forearm looks like a large oval. These elongated almond-shaped eyes, this rounded throne, and this flattening of the forms with a lot of decorative patterning.
This two-dimensional effect is given by the flat application of color. So in some other manuscripts, you might see some more shading to give a sense of volume, but here the pigment's applied to have a very striking design and geometric effect.
And it's the textiles that lend her a sense of royalty, this image of her as the Queen of Heaven.
And the designs on the textiles often evoke patterns that are found on textiles that were imported into Ethiopia.
And the Virgin is situated within this architectural space. And then on either side, we see angels bearing swords.
The 2 figures are the archangels, Michael and Gabriel, and they're holding swords because they're serving as protectors.
Some art historians have seen these angels bearing swords as reflecting the practices in the court of the emperor himself, that there would have been armed guards on either side, and so a parallel between the earthly court of the emperor and the heavenly court of Mary and the Christ child. And this is such an interesting moment in the history of Ethiopia because the emperors of the 15th century were sending out diplomatic missions to parts of Europe, to what is today Spain, to what is today Italy, looking to visit special religious sites, but also bring back craftsmen to beautify Ethiopian churches. What makes this manuscript so unique is the presence of Mary here right at the beginning of the manuscript. And we know that's partly due to Tsar Yaakov, but there's a wider context of the monastery that likely this was from, which was Stephanite, that is, a reform order that criticized the extent of the emperor's veneration of the Virgin Mary. And yet here she is at the very front of this manuscript.
Even though the Stephanites criticized Tsar Yaakov, the tradition of putting the Virgin Mary in the front of these still remains after his rule.
So there are other marvelous things about this book. In addition to the veiled image of the Virgin and Child, we have canon tables that help the reader to follow the story of the life of Christ through the various books of the Gospels. And I'm really fascinated by the geometric patterning, but especially the interlacing at the top of the canon tables.
The interlace that's used both on top of the canon table pages, also on the facing pages of the evangelist portraits, are something that is very Ethiopian, but is also used in other traditions as well.
So let's look at one of the author pages.
Here we're looking at John, and at the top of the page we have an inscription written in Ge'ez, the official liturgical language of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. This portrait of John is in a long line of author portraits that appear in manuscripts across Europe and into Ethiopia and through Byzantium as well, and it features the evangelist writing their gospel. So here we have John seated, he has all of his writing implements, stylus, probably a reed pen in his hand, and he has his inkwell and perhaps his pigments.
He has this large, round, golden halo that is so large it interrupts the frame above him. His body is composed of these very broad, rounded forms that almost look like his body is encased in a halo.
And it also looks like he's enveloped in those luxurious textiles. Another place where these textiles show up are paste downs that are in the front and back covers of these manuscripts. And this has one of these paste downs. We're not exactly sure when this textile dates from, but it does show this tradition of using foreign imported textiles to decorate these books. Often these imported textiles were worn by the elite in Ethiopia to show their wealth. And so having a little swatch of this fabric in these gospel books endows this book with that same luxury.